Okay, so chapter 5 is about infection control and its principles and practices. The things that you will need to know by the end of this chapter, the difference in state laws, rules, and the difference in laws and rules. Types and classifications of bacteria, hepatitis and HIV, how are they spread, or how are they transmitted? Cleaning, the difference in cleaning, disinfecting, and sterilizing. Types of infectants or disinfectants and how are they used. Universal precautions, responsibilities of a salon professional, and how to safely clean and disinfect salon tools and equipment. So, like I was telling Mia earlier, if you see something that is abbreviated, it's more than likely going to be on your board. So our first one today is OSHA. If you have anybody who your dad owns Bonanza, you've probably heard of OSHA. Where your stepdad works, you've probably heard of OSHA. So OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. OSHA was created as part of the U.S. Department of Labor to enforce safety and health standards in the workplace. The OSHA Act of 1970 established the Hazard Communication Rule, which requires manufacturers to assess and communicate hazards associated with their products. With the creation of OSHA came MSDS, which are material safety and data sheets. So every product, every disinfectant, every cleaning thing that we have in here, we have a book. And it's full of MSDSs. Y'all can look back and forth at that. But like our colors, our disinfectants, just everything. And it's got what it is, the ingredient. Okay, so hair color. Hazards, what to do in the case of an emergency, potential health effects, composition or information on ingredients, first aid measures, firefighting measures, accidental release measures, handling and storage. Everything we have has that. But your MSDSs, or I call them MSDS sheets, but it's like saying sheets twice. They provide pertinent information, including product content, associated hazards, combustion levels, and storage requirements. OSHA standards are important to cosmetologists because of the nature of the chemicals that we use, mixing, storing, and disposal of chemicals. General safety and our rights to know what we're working with. So here is another abbreviated agency. EPA, or the Environmental Protection Agency. The EPA does a lot of different things, but how they apply to us, many different types of disinfectants are registered with the EPA. 2 types of disinfectants that are used are hospital disinfectants and tuberculocidal disinfectants. Hospital disinfectants are effective for cleaning blood and body fluids. They can be used on any non-porous surface. What does non-porous mean? It has no pores or any openings, and it can't absorb any kind of liquid. So like glass is non-porous. This concrete floor is porous. Hospital disinfectants control the spread of disease. Tuberculocidal disinfectants are proven to kill the bacteria that cause tuberculosis, which is a disease transmitted through coughing or sneezing. You don't really hear a lot about it anymore, but it's a lung disease. Tuberculocidal disinfectants are they fall under hospital disinfectants, but they're also one of a kind because the bacteria that causes tuberculosis, they are capable of forming spores, so that makes them more difficult to kill. Some of these products can be harmful to our tools and equipment, and they require special methods of disposal. So check the rules in your state to be sure that the product that you choose complies with state requirements. So another thing that it mentions here, there's a disinfectant myth. The term hospital grade is not used by the EPA. The EPA does not grade disinfectants. A product is either approved by the EPA as a hospital disinfectant or it's not. And also, I think I got it on the other. Every product that is registered with the EPA, they have an EPA registration number. State regulatory agencies. So the DPOR, what does DPOR stand for? Did you find out and Google it? That's who is over your state boards and stuff. DPOR.
Virginia Department of Professional and Occupational Registration.
So the Department of Professional and Occupational Registration. The DPOR's job is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of its consumers. And they're responsible for making laws and the laws feed into the rules. So laws are also called statutes, and laws are written by the state legislator, and they determine the scope of practice and establish guidelines for agencies to make rules. So what is your scope of practice? It's what you're allowed to do, right? As cosmetologists, we are allowed to do nails and toes, but a nail tech isn't allowed to color hair. So that pedicures, manicures falls under our scope of practice, but hair color falls outside of the scope of practice of a nail tech. So rules are also called regulations, and rules are more specific than laws. They determine how the law will be applied. They establish specific standards, and they can be changed and updated frequently without a new law being made. And they change stuff all the time. So the principles of infection. Careless actions can cause injury or the invasion of body tissues by disease causing pathogens. And prevention is key, and it begins with you. And we haven't got to it yet, but a big thing in this chapter is universal precautions. You just assume that everybody has some kind of bloodborne illness. If you treat cleanup like everybody is a potential carrier or something, then you won't spread it anywhere. Okay. So, potential infectious organisms that we will encounter in the salon. The first one is bacteria. So, have y'all got your books out? So tell me something about bacteria.
It spreads easy.
Bacteria cells grow and reproduce.
Okay, so bacteria are minute, which means tiny, one-celled organisms. They exist in dust, dirt, refuse, and diseased tissue. Bacteria can exist almost anywhere, and 1,500 rod-shaped bacteria can fit on the head of a pin. And right now, I'm just giving you all each category. We'll get into them more tomorrow or the next day y'all are here. So, another thing about bacteria is bacteria can be, if you have a bacterial infection, it can be treated with antibiotics. The next one I'm going to go over is viruses. And the reason I'm going over bacteria and then viruses is because this time of year, everybody stays sick. But I'm going to just go back and forth on the differences between these. So bacteria can be treated with antibiotics. Viruses cannot. They have to run their course, or if it's some kind of chronic virus that you're stuck with for the rest of your life, you just have to deal with it. So, viruses, tell me something about virus.
A virus is a microscopic particle that infects and resides in the cells of a biological organism.
So they live by penetrating cells. I'm gonna have to go get some more dry erase markers. I was complaining about them all drying out.
I went through the washroom.
I think I had it in my pocket when I went home, and I just saw it laying, and I got it and kept trying to write with it, and it was like just water. So they live by invading cells. They are resistant to antibiotics. They are prevented by vaccination. Okay. One difference between viruses and bacteria is that a virus can live and reproduce only by taking over other cells and becoming part of them, while bacteria can live and reproduce on their own. I already said that bacterial infections are treated with antibiotics. Viruses are not affected by antibiotics. Viruses are hard to kill without harming the body's own cells in the process. Why do you think that a virus would be hard to kill without harming the body's cells?
Because viruses attack cells.
Yeah, they invade the cells and that's where they live. Vaccinations prevent viruses from growing in the body, and there are many different vaccines available for viruses, but not all viruses have vaccines. There's a vaccine that's available for hepatitis B, and working in our industry where there's possibility of like a blood spill, it would be a good idea to get the vaccination for that. Health authorities recommend that service providers in industries with direct contact with the public, including cosmetologists, teachers, florists, and bank tellers, ask their doctors about getting vaccinated for Hep B. A common example of a viral infection that's often seen in salons is the human papillomavirus, also known as plantar warts. This virus can infect the bottom of the foot, and it resembles black dots, usually appearing in clustered groups. HPV is highly contagious, difficult to kill, and it can be passed from pedicure client to pedicure client by dirty implements and foot baths. If the client shows signs of an HPV infection, do not perform the pedicure service. Instead, refer them to a physician. Bloodborne pathogens. These are some more viruses. Hepatitis is inflammation of the liver. You got hepatitis A, B, and C. And then another one is HIV or AIDS. Both of those are bloodborne. So like I said, we'll come back and go into each one a little bit more in depth. But now we're going to talk about fungi. Tell me something about fungi. Mm-hmm. Okay. can be spread by contaminated implements or by not preparing nail plate before applying enhancements. Fungi are more common on the feet than on the hands, and you can also get fungal infections in your scalp. Tinea barbae is called barber's itch. Tinea capitis is a fungal infection of the scalp, and Tinea pedis is ringworm fungus on the foot. Alright, so parasites. Parasites are organisms that grow, feed, and shelter on or in another organism, while contributing nothing to the survival of that organism. They must have a host to survive. They can live on or inside humans and animals, and they can be found in food, on plants, trees, and in water. Humans can acquire internal parasites by eating food that's not been properly cooked. External parasites that affect humans on or in the skin include ticks, fleas, and mites. What's the most common type of parasite that we'll encounter here?
Head lice.
Yes. Head lice are a type of parasite that are responsible for contagious disease and conditions. One condition caused by an infestation of head lice is called pediculosis capitalis. Another one is called scabies. It's a contagious skin disease, which is caused by the itch mite. It burrows under the skin, and you want to know a fun fact about scabies? The reason you itch is because the little mites poop under your skin, and you have an allergic reaction to it.